So it is 6 o'clock. So welcome, everyone. I will call this regular meeting of the Village of Fundy Albert Council for May 7th, 2024 to order. So I'd like to welcome everyone from who's attending in Lower Coverdale. This is our first time outside of the three normal locations for meetings, and we hope to do more of these. So welcome. The first item of business is the adoption of the agenda. The agenda for this evening's meeting was circulated in advance. I would propose the addition of item number 6B, a presentation by Lackey Advertising, which would make the presentation by a member of the public item 6C, as well as the addition of item number 10, public comments and statements. This would make closed session item number 11 and the adjournment item number 12. There's also the removal of item 9B, which was the Hillsborough Lagoon invoice for 2022. That will be removed, and the motion relating to grants and contributions would become item number 9B, and 9A would be Canada Day funding. So that would be an additional motion. Do all council members agree to the additions and amendments to the agenda as presented? Yes. If so, I'll accept a motion to adopt the amended agenda as circulated. So moved by Councillor Elderkin, seconded by Councillor Coates. Any discussion on the motion? Not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? Motion's carried unanimously. Item number 3 on the agenda, conflict of interest declarations. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare in relation to the items on the agenda this evening? There being none, we'll move on to item number 4, which is the adoption of the minutes. There are 4 sets of minutes to approve this evening. Those of the regular meeting of March 5th, 2024, the special meeting of March 28th, 2024, the regular meeting of April 2nd, 2024, and a special meeting on April 24th, 2024. So the draft minutes of the regular meeting on March 5th were circulated in advance of the meetings. Are there any errors or omissions to report? Councillor Arrow?
Yes. They on page 5, which is concerning the gazebo repair. I think that's, I'm just trying to get myself straightened here. Sure.
B, John, on page 5. 11B on page 5. I think it's
11. I've lost my way here because
we can come back to that one, Councillor, if you want to find it. So we'll go and do the draft minutes of the special meeting on March 28th, 2024. They were circulated in advance of the meeting. Are there any errors or omissions to report with respect to the March 28th minutes? If not,
oh, I had one for that too.
okay.
Just a moment here. So on March 28th,
We kind of parked the March 5th one. If you would like to do the March 28th one first.
yeah, on March 28th, I'm trying to find page 5. Why am I finding this? I'm struggling here, but the comment is that there was it concerned the standing committees. And there was a clear indication that there was a standing committee for personnel, but in fact, there's a second standing committee, which is the Emergency Measures Standing Committee. And it was not really clear on that point.
So you'd like that clarified?
I would like that clarified, please.
Perfect. Okay. So, for the March 28th, 2024 special meeting with that correction, I will accept the motion to adopt the minutes as amended.
So I had another question, another comment, please. Sorry.
On March 28th?
Yes, I found my way also. So this is on The problem is my confusion is that there are pages to the minutes and pages to the package.
Correct.
So this is on pages to the package, which looks like it's at the top of page 5 to the minutes. There's a statement attributed to me where it says, Councillor Arrow asked that if residents petition the municipality because they feel the bylaw is not being followed, period. Which doesn't really read correctly. What I really was saying at the time, that is, this concerned water and sewer billing.
Mhm.
And what I was meaning, that if a resident, a ratepayer, petitions the municipality because they feel that their particular bill is not in conformance with the rate structure that's in the bylaw, that be respected and addressed and corrected as necessary, that the bylaw still stands as valid. Thank you.
All right. Is that it, Councillor Arrow? For the March 28th minutes?
No, page 15, which is actually the last page, which is page 7 of the minutes. It talks about the adjournment. It was moved by Councillor (?) that the meeting would be adjourned at ? So,
Really?
yeah. So I'm suggesting that we remove the question marks and put in the actual valid information.
We will park those minutes. They will not be addressed this.
Okay.
If they aren't clear, they need to be clear. So we will move back to the March 5th, 2024 minutes of the regular meeting. You had some,
Yes, I should be able to find my way here now. This is concerning the gazebo repair.
Mhm.
And it was not really clear in the minutes. I had thought that what had transpired there is that we were in fact agreeing to the movement of money so that the repair would happen. Okay, here it is. Be it resolved that the amount of 4,500 be assigned to the gazebo update.
correct, in the.
Then it goes on to say, though, there were questions about the need for the repair instead of the removal of the gazebo. But it wasn't really resolved, that discussion. And it's, to me, important because even today I was approached by a resident in the community who had heard that the gazebo was being torn down. I said, oh, I don't think that's the case at all.
No,
So,
there hasn't been a decision made to tear down the gazebo.
no, but did we agree at this point, this resolution was to,
Was only to reassign funding to the Canada Community Building Fund
for the purpose,
for the purpose of assignment to the gazebo project.
yes.
There was no part of that motion that indicated that the gazebo repair was to go ahead. It was to move that, I believe it's $4,514 or.
So we're moving money, and there's already money, I believe, in the budget
Correct.
for this purpose, but it's not actually been authorized.
It's in the budget. It is being moved to the Canada Community Building Fund because the funds were no longer there and they have to be reassigned to the Canada Community Building Fund allocation. That's a requirement from Canada Community Building Fund. That was the extent of the resolution. Only.
Okay, so where it talks about, there was also a question about the need for repairs instead of the removal of the gazebo. That sort of
That was just in general conversation as a result of.
okay, so there's no resolution about that question.
No.
Okay.
So are you okay then
Yes.
with the minutes as
Yes.
circulated? Yeah. Okay, so I would accept the motion to accept the minutes of the March, lost my track here, March 5th, 2020,
Okay, sorry.
March 5th, 2024 minutes as circulated. So moved by Councillor Elder, seconded by Councillor Land. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. So the draft minutes of the regular meeting on April 2nd were circulated in advance of the meeting. Are there any errors or omissions to report? Not, I'll accept the motion to adopt the minutes as circulated. So moved by Councillor Coates, seconded by Councillor Jonah. Any discussion on the motion? Not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? Motion's carried unanimously. The last set of minutes are the draft minutes of the special meeting on April 28th, 2024. They were circulated in advance of this meeting. Are there any errors or omissions to report?
Is it the 28th or the 24th?
24th.
24th, my error, sorry. If not, I'll accept the motion to adopt the minutes of the special meeting on April 24th, 2024. So moved by Councillor Land, seconded by Councillor Ward Russell. Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 5 on the agenda is the consent agenda. There are no consent agenda items for this evening's meeting. So we'll now move to the public and administrative presentations portion of the meeting. So there are 3 public presentations this evening, 2 from service providers and 1 from a member of the public. I will note that the service providers to Fundy Albert are not limited to the 5 minutes for their presentations to council. So they can go in excess of 5 minutes. So the first presentation is a presentation by Jeff Fisher, Deputy Chief of Operations for the town of Riverview Fire Department. Deputy Chief, thank you for attending, and the floor is yours, sir.
Where would you like me to?
You can stand wherever you'd like.
Don't look back. Thank you, council, and to the community for inviting me out tonight. My name is Jeff Fisher, as mentioned. I'm the Deputy Chief of Operations for Riverview Fire and Rescue. I come to Riverview with 16 and a half years of fire service experience in Toronto, Nova Scotia, a composite department very similar to Riverview. And I spent the last 2 years here in Riverview as the Deputy Chief. Council reached out after they saw a presentation that Chief True and Deputy Malloy did for Riverview Town Council on wildlife preparedness. And with the risks associated and as much news coverage and stuff as we have come to know about wildland fires and the risks associated with them, it's good information for everyone to have to help them prepare their properties and the surrounding areas for the risk of wildfire. We can't prevent it, we can't do everything to eliminate it, but we can do things in advance of an emergency situation that may help the situation when it happens. So this is going to be a fairly quick overview. This can be expanded upon any time if council or the residents want more information. We're more than happy to come out. And the same way with any other topics that you may be interested in about the fire service and the services that we offer, we're more than happy to come out and provide that information for you. Without further ado, a wildland urban interface fire is a wildland urban interface is where various structures such as private homes or other developments meet or are intermingled with wildland or vegetative fuels that can ignite and feed wildland fires. The spread from wildland fires to built structures may occur due to direct flame, contact, radiant heat transfer, or falling embers. So as we know, there are significant risks to the communities that we live in and far beyond. 2023 was unprecedented for wildfires in Canada, with over 15 million hectares across the country that were affected, and more than 200 communities were evacuated. The Maritime provinces were not immune to this, as there were 3 very large wildland fires throughout the Maritimes, as well as multiple other small incidents that caused damage. The Shamcook fire just north of St. Andrews, New Brunswick is one that hit awful close to home. Another large one was in Tantallon, Nova Scotia, within the Halifax Regional Municipality. And there was another large one that burned a significant area in Shelburne, Nova Scotia. Our local communities are not immune to these threats. And as much as we like to live within nature and close to nature, we have to be prepared for the threats and the possibilities that may happen in relation to wildland incidents. On the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see an overview taken from Google Maps of West Riverview. The far left streets would be Goldsboro Avenue and looping up through Irving and Lawson Road. And then farther to the left, the picture I had captured, it would have been River East Drive. These are just a couple examples within the town of Riverview that houses and businesses and recreational areas border right on the forest. And there would be a large threat to a forest fire impacting homes and businesses along those areas. Moving to the right-hand side of the screen, we have a picture overview of the Lower Coverdale subdivision. Again, we see more homes and businesses within rural settings intermingled in with the forest and in with nature. And Lower Coverdale is a good example of how a rural setting could be significantly impacted by a wildland fire. So these next few slides are taken from Fire Smart New Brunswick. It's a program put out by the government to educate everyone on the risk of wildland fires. And it starts off with the spreading of wildland fires and how, you know, it's not just direct flame impact on a structure or a piece of material that can cause a fire. Embers and sparks can blow up to 2 kilometers ahead of a wildland fire. They can ignite materials on or near your home, which can then result in severe damage. So just think about how far 2 kilometers is, and that takes very little wind, next to no wind, for those embers to travel. And once they land on your property in dry conditions, they can cause a problem. Extreme heat, radiant heat from a wildland fire can melt siding, ignite homes, and even break windows. The extreme heat can come from flames within 30 meters of your home. So again, we don't need direct impact of a flame to cause a problem, just the immense amount of heat that can come off of a wildland fire or a group of trees or shrubs that aren't directly up against a structure can still cause severe damage. And then we have the direct flame impact. As wildland fires spread towards homes, they ignite other flammable objects in their path. So to stop the fire from directly affecting homes, we need to create breaks in this path, especially as we move closer to our homes and structures. So to create this, they created, or they talk about three different zones. The intermediate zone, which is a zone directly up against your home or other structures. The intermediate zone is that follows that up to 10 meters out, and then the extended zone, which reaches to the farther perimeters of your property. We're going to talk about those one by one here. The immediate zone, right up against your structure, whether it be your garage, your camper trailer, your home, your baby barn, anything that, a gazebo, anything that has a structure to it, you should have a minimum of 1.5 meters of non-combustible surface that should extend around the entire structure and any attachments such as decks or patios. So 1.5 meters around the complete perimeter of your home should be fairly immune as you can make it with non-combustible materials to prevent the spread of fire. In the immediate zone, starting at that 1.5 meters out to 10, these should be consist of fire-resistant materials and free of materials that could easily ignite from a wildfire. So branches, shrubs, the mulch that makes lawns and gardens look nice are all threats that can assist a wildfire in advancing closer to your homes. And then once we go on past into the extended zone, 10 meters out from your home, and extending out to 30 meters. This is where we can have a little more vegetation, a few more trees and shrubs, but they need to be taken care of. They need to be pruned to reduce the hazards in the zone. And we need to make a concerted effort to remove branches, fallen debris, dry grass, needles, leaves, things like that. The things that we were normally told to leave and let compost and let nature do its course. In these 3 zones, we need to clean those things up because that's what's going to feed the fire closer to our homes. We also need to look for opportunities to create fire break by creating distance between trees and vegetation. So if there's small trees, small groups of vegetation that are laying low, or even trees that are close together where you can eliminate 1 or 2 and create a space to keep the fire from spreading from one tree to the next or one group of trees to the next, it's a good thing to do if you can do that. We know we don't want to clear all the nature out of our living space, but these actions will help reduce the intensity of a wildland fire when it approaches our properties. Just to zero in on some of these points, the immediate zone, that closest area to your home, this is a place where we need to be the most proactive. It's a place where we can find the biggest risks and have the biggest impact. We need to choose non-combustible building materials when we construct or renovate. Clear vegetation and combustible materials, we need to clear those down to the soil and cover the area with non-combustible materials like gravel, brick, or concrete. And we need to avoid planting wood, shrubs, or trees. And if they are present, we need to maintain them regularly, keep them from being having direct contact with your home, and keep them in pruned and in a condition that they won't spread the fire. In the intermediate zone, that next section out, which is a little bigger, we can focus on planting fire-resistant vegetation and select non-combustible landscaping materials. Avoid incorporating any woody debris, including the mulch. Keep combustible items like firewood piles, construction materials, patio furniture, tools and decorative pieces out of this zone. And if you have to have them there, if your property's not large enough to move out that far, or you do want to keep them there for a reason, then we can look at applying those things in the immediate zone around those items to make them a little more resistant to the spread of fire. Mover trailers or recreational vehicle storage sheds and other combustible structures out to the extended zone. And if possible, store our firewood inside and out the garage or shed or other ember resistant structure. Create a non-combustible ground cover like a gravel pad underneath and add a 1.5 meter distance around trailers or recreational vehicles and sheds. So again, that 1.5 meters is our last defense. That's our last hope to keep the fire from impacting whatever item that's coming up upon. Finally, the extended zone. In this area, we can be more selective in what we remove as far as evergreen trees, trying to create at least 3 meters of horizontal space between a single or group set of trees. Remove branches to a height of 2 meters from the ground. Regularly clean up the accumulation of branches, dry grass, or needles to eliminate potential surface fuels. When they say surface fuels, they mean that debris that's on the ground that is dry, maybe partially rotted, that the fire is going to ignite quickly and move along the ground in a faster manner. Continue to apply these principles if your property extends beyond 30 meters. And again, work with your neighbors in overlapping zones and seek guidance of a fire professional if affected by conditions like steep slopes. So the topography of the land plays a very important role in the progression of a wildland fire. If a fire approaches a steep slope upward, it's going to travel up that slope a lot faster, than it will if it's just moving along a flat surface. So there's different ways to handle different types of topography, and they all impact the speed and the rate at which fire will spread. So just a little help as far as to the things we can do to make our properties look nicer. And we're roaming through the hardware stores, and we want to buy a plant or a tree to use at home. There's some that are better than others. The deciduous trees or the leafy trees are more resistant to wildland fire, such as poplar, maple, birch, aspen, alder, ash, and cherry. And if at all possible, if we're working in those zones that we just talked about, try to avoid the coniferous trees, the ones with the needles and cones, as these are highly flammable and should not be situated within 10 meters of your home. These species include spruce, fir, pine, and cedar. You can see a couple diagrams there of the way you can space things out and work within the landscape that you have to make your properties more fire resistant. This slide here just talks a little bit about building materials and the things we can do around our home and the structure itself to help prevent and make our properties a little more fire safe. Doors that have entrance doors and garage doors that have a good seal. If you're replacing a door and can find one with a fire rating on it, that's even better. Understanding they do cost more, but they do certainly offer an element of safety, an added element of safety. Tempered windows or thermal pane windows are recommended, as single pane windows provide little resistance to heat from advancing wildfires. The benefit of a lot of windows now is we're doing the double pane and the triple pane windows for energy efficiency. So very rarely will you purchase a single pane window for a home anyway. So you're kind of stacking up and doubling your benefit there. You're getting the energy efficiency plus you're getting some added wildfire prevention. Roof materials. There's not a lot of wooden shakes or cedar shakes and things like that on roofs around here, but certainly asphalt shingles, clay, composite materials, metal provide better fire resistance than other building materials. Inside and outside maintenance around all the corners, especially in the valleys and the where peaks and intersections occur in your roof, is a good place for needles and stuff to lay. And when embers fly in those places, they can ignite that debris, and then it, of course, follows through to the structure of your home. Siding materials, stucco, metal, brick, and concrete. Fiber cement siding offer additional fire resistance. Logs and heavy timbers are also more reasonably effective. Untreated wood and vinyl siding are not great things, not great products for fire prevention. Keeping your gutters clean not only will help in the water runoff or ice buildup in the wintertime, it will also help with the fire prevention side of things as well. Decks, it's important to sheathe in the base of your deck, or if not, if you don't want to sheathe it in or block it in, at least make sure that the debris and stuff that blows under it is cleaned out. A lot of times that's a kind of a forgotten aspect of our yard work. It's not quickly seen, so it's easily missed, but there's a lot of debris and stuff to gather under there. Chimneys, if you burn wood, a spark arrestor on your chimney will reduce the chance of sparks and embers escaping and starting fires. If you can increase the distance from the ground to the first row of siding or the first row of sheathing material on your home, sort of that exposed concrete level, that's hard to do, I understand, after a home is built. But the more distance we can create, up to 15 centimeters from the ground to the combustible materials, will help our fire prevention around our home. Eaves and vents, Well, these are designed to allow air to flow through, ensuring that they are in good shape and there's no large holes or openings that will allow fire travel or embers and stuff to easily get into our attics. And then any wooden fixtures, boardwalks, fences, anything like that that may directly butt up against our homes, those are easy pass for fire to travel. The farther, the more distance we can create between those structures, the better. And again, give your sheds and your outbuildings and your campers and your recreational vehicles, give them the same kind of attention that you've given your home. So that's what's going to protect you in the long run. That concludes the presentation. If there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Great. Thank you very much, Deputy Chief. I'll just go around and see if any of our councillors have any questions. Councillor Land, any questions?
Thank you, Jeff. Good presentation. Thank you.
Councillor Alderton?
No, thank you very much. It's, good to be reminded because it does happen.
Actually, it does.
It does.
Councillor Jonah?
Oh, no, that's fine. Thank you.
Councillor Ward Russell?
So thank you for coming to the council meeting tonight, and I look forward to further conversations with you in your years.
Councillor Errol?
No, the only thing I would add is, I'm a big fan of the, this would be the map of New Brunswick. That's the New Brunswick Forest Fire Watch that is updated with color coding in the regions every day. Like yesterday it was red, today it's yellow. This is maybe a good sign, but this is something that is very worthwhile monitoring through the season because it helps to understand the threat that each of our regions of New Brunswick face.
Correct. Yeah, great. Councillor Coates?
Thank you for your presentation. I think a lot of changes I've got to do.
And for my part, like a lot of your points are not lost on, and shouldn't be lost on any of us because we do live in a mixed rural urban environment and we're very close to our forests, most of us. And while we have been fairly fortunate, last year was quite wet, but we're just one season away from a bad season where things are very, very dry and there's a lot of fuel laying on the forest flooring. And so that sometimes that should keep us a little bit from that stuff. So it's very important. Normally, when we do a presentation to council, we don't have any questions from the public but I'll make an exception in this case to see if there's anybody from the audience who wishes to ask you a question relative to your presentation. It was very informative, so thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Deputy Chief Fisher?
Again, if there's anything else that council or the public would like us to come out and speak on, we're more than happy to do it. Chief True and Deputy Malloy did a similar presentation again at Riverview Town Council and was the event at the Fire Hall last weekend about these very topics. But anything at all, I spoke with one of the councilors there when I came in about mutual aid and how the different fire departments work together and the different product or different apparatus and stuff that we have that help protect the Lower Coverdale area and the town of Riverview. So we always got your best interests in mind. And we're here to work with everyone to make sure that fire protection and should the unthinkable happen, the mitigation of that problem, we'll make sure that we put you folks first.
And we very much appreciate your service to the community and in particular the agreement that we have in place for the Riverview Fire Department to cover the portions of Fundy Albert that you do cover. We very much appreciate your service to us as well. So thank you. You're welcome to stay and you're welcome to make your way out if you prefer. So thank you. So if you want to gather up your presentation. So our second presenter is Mr. Derek Lackey of Lackey Advertising on the topic of Fundy Albert branding. So Mr. Lackey, if you'd like to come up.
Thank you very much. I will try to be as brief as I can.
It doesn't connect.
It doesn't use the adapter.
Here we go.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I'm, as Bob mentioned, my name is Derek Lackey. I ran an ad agency in Toronto for many years and sold it and moved to Alma, I guess 3 or 4 years ago. And we had the pleasure of winning the open RFP for the branding of the village. And we started out by doing what I'm going to cover here is just an overview of the public consultations. We gave a good report to council within the last month, a thorough report. I'll just cover the highlights for you. We approved the tagline at that point. We've recommended colors and we've got a recommended logo, and we'll answer any questions as to how we got that. What we really strived to do, the public consultations for us were fantastic because we, quite frankly, would have taken it in a slightly different direction than we ended up taking it because of the feedback from the community. And the thing, what we did was we held public consultations in each of the wards and gave everybody a chance to come out and say what they needed to say. And a total of 71 people provided input directly. What we did was we asked 9 questions. We wrote, we did what's called diverge and then converge and diverge. So what we did was anything goes in the first part. We didn't edit anything. We wrote everything down. And then we gave everybody 2 dots for every question and said, pick the 2 that stand up the most to you. And what we ended up with was some, across all 9 questions, some pretty consistent stuff boiled to the top. And really what it was is that we're friendly, generous, we're good neighbors, and nature is really a key part of Fundy Albert. So the rocks, the park, the nature, the whole coast of the Petitcodiac and the Bay of Fundy. So these weren't just kind of knee-jerk. We actually scored 100 points for number 1 dots, 50 points for number 2 dots, and certain things really popped out. And it really made our job a lot easier because the tagline is friendly by nature. Right? And I think it's not only how tourists see us, but it's how we see ourselves. So that kind of wrote itself. So the recommended colors, pretty simple. We're Fundy. We've got some unique features along the bay. So this color scheme was pulled out of that image. So we literally, our art director took an eyedropper from inside Photoshop and he touched here and here and he got this. He touched here, he got this. He touched all the blue parts, he got the shades of blue and gray. So not only is the color palette pleasing, but I think it really is us. And it's kind of obvious. We were going to use the New Brunswick, but they're really hard. They're really hard primary colors. And we didn't think it suited Fundy Albert. The recommended logo, first off, when when doing a logo, I think the most important thing, we always want to go to, do we like it? And we can have a beer and talk about whether we like it. More important, does it do its job? So we're going to use it 5 or 6 different ways. Primary use is the website. Vehicles and signage, of course, and uniforms, letterhead, and social media. Those are the primary uses. So we had to make sure that the logo suited the purpose of how we were going to use it. And in this case, given those uses, it couldn't be a small circle, because a small circle up in the left corner of a website disappears. So we want to make sure the logo was strong. So what we're proposing is the strong font with the little stripe and the written friendly by nature, which is, and we would try to trademark the friendly by nature. So that every time it shows up, it's got a little TM on it. There is a place that you all know, Grimsby, Ontario, tried to adopt friendly, like when we did our research, they tried to adopt it. It didn't adopt in Grimsby. It's kind of not a really good fit for Grimsby, but it's a real good fit for Fundy Albert. So now looking at this, it's got to work knockout. It's got to work in reverse. It's still strong. Got to work on the website. Again, rather than a little badge in the upper left corner, that you get no doubt whose webpage you're on. We are, as part of this mandate, we are building out a full highly functional website for Fundy Albert. So again, you can see how it applies to the ways we want to use it. We've also assembled about 50 to 75 really good photos of the entire region, all the different parts. And we're going to, have contests and have people submit their photos and make sure that we have permission to use them on the websites and in social media. But we want to make sure that the beauty of the Fundy Albert area comes through in everything we do. The other great thing about this logo is you can flip it. So you can have your Sunday best, and then you can have your Friday night at the music festival. So on a shirt, for example, that you might do that rather than the formal logo. Again, it works in reverse. And you can see the actual use of it can flip around. We had a little fun, made our own license plate. One of the things in the process of creating this, the word ambassador came through really strong. And it made us think that we could train ambassadors throughout the entire Fundy region to, like, literally have on that plate, ask me about Fundy Albert. But in order to carry that plate, you have to have taken training to know all the different places to tell people to go in Fundy Albert. So we literally have a ambassador program made up of us. Again, one of the uses is going to be wearables, like uniforms for the village workers. That's it. Short and sweet.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lackey. I guess we'll go around and ask our councilors for any comments or questions. Council Ward Russell, any comments or questions?
I think this is fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for, coming to the table. I'm excited.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilor Earl?
Derek, can you zoom in on the image that's between the Fundy and the Albert, please?
I can't in this.
It wasn't really clear to me what it,
Yeah.
what it is.
I'll tell you exactly what it is. The top is just the orange rock. So it's just orange. The middle is a hobo rocks. It's the shape of hobo rocks. And then lower one is the best
The sea.
with a wave.
Councilor Coates?
I think you did a good job.
Thank you, sir.
Great, thank you. Councilor Jonah?
Well, I lost the vote on the slogan there, but, after saying it, great job. And that's fantastic. Really represents who we are, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your work there.
Thank you.
Great. Councilor Elderkin?
No, thank you very much. I think the friendly by nature is very, it's very natural, I guess,
And it's us.
and it's us. Thank you.
Councilor Land?
Thank you, Derek. It's exceptional. Works really well. I like the bottom logo goes with it. The little color in the middle breaks it up a bit. I think it looks great. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. From my perspective, the only question I would have is you said the middle section tends to target the Hopo rocks, so there are no concerns vis-a-vis any trademark implications for the whole?
No, and it's a drawing. So,
So it's not,
yeah,
it's not their logo?
No.
Rather something that,
yeah, this,
the flower.
with all due respect to Hopo Rock, this logos are way better.
And I like the friendly by nature tagline, because there's a dual meaning there. We're friendly by nature and we're friendly by nature, because we're close to nature.
Yes.
No, so, thank you very much, and, while we're here, again, I'll kind of get away from the normal way things happen and see if anybody in the audience has anything to, yes, ma'am.
I think the friendly by nature is bang up. We bought our house pre-COVID and moved here and we chose Hillsborough. And the longer we've been here, the more we realize this is where we should have been our entire adult lives. So I think the friendly by nature is excellent. The dash with the colors, I don't know if that's something you might be able to bring to the forefront for certain things, such as branded clothing.
It is designed to be a graphic element. You know, like you might put it opaque in the back of a letterhead.
Yeah.
Because
Or
it goes
like,
right through the
I could
page.
see people driving
Yeah.
around with that
Yeah.
on their back windshield or something. But I think it looks super idea.
Thank you.
I think it's me.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's really professional. I'm so impressed. I attended every meeting
You did.
and, well, I just want to make sure tourism was in there. It's wonderful because you captured the essence of all those meetings. I think, yes,
Thank you.
and I love the double loaded, Fundy Albert, friendly by nature.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Woodward?
Just a comment, I find too that nature's very friendly too.
Yes.
We have to put something around our garden to keep nature
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am?
Is this is this it? Is this the vision? This is where we're going?
Yes.
It's wonderful. This is where, okay. It's not like up for approval or anything. This is.
No, we were asked to make our recommendation. That's what we were paid for.
Yeah.
So we did have several others that I would not have been embarrassed to show you. but this really was the strongest.
Yeah, that's-
This was the one our entire team went, yeah.
don't want to brag about it if it's not the right one.
Anyone else? If not, we should, as a council, adopt the tagline and the logo. If council is so inclined, I'd accept a motion to adopt the tagline and logo as presented by Lackey Advertising for the colors and the colors for the Village of Fundy Albert. So moved by Councilor Land, seconded by Councilor Ward Russell. Any discussion on the motion? Any comments? If not, all in favor, signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed, if any? Motion's adopted unanimously. So thank you very much, Mr. Lackey.
Thank you.
It's very informative and we love it, obviously.
Good.
So thank you.
Keep it on the list. Tomorrow. Yeah.
And you're welcome to stay for the remainder of the session if you'd like, or just kind of wander out if you'd like. So the third presentation we have is by Mr. Michael McBurney on the topic of Alma water concerns. So Mr. McBurney, if you'd like to stand up and maybe go over to the chair, if you would, please.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, residents. Michael McBurney, 4073 Scenic Drive. I actually own two properties in Alma. It has been said that I have a tendency to make some council members uncomfortable by coming to speak. I take that a little personal. I guess if there's members here that are uncomfortable, maybe they're not doing as they should be doing. I guess like many Alma residents and business owners, I'm so very confused over the decision that was made to raise water rates. I have a commercial property there, which, as you know, I was going to develop. I placed that development on hold due to circumstances. Also, I have a cottage there. I spend probably most weekends year round. To raise the rates on something that is virtually non-usable makes absolutely no sense. To raise the rates and then announce that we need to conserve in a time where there's no tours down there. So I just have a hard time paying for something that I'm not able to use. In a time that when food costs are rising, among everything else, a mayor and a council chooses to raise rates for something that we all know that we're not going to be able to use this summer. We'll be under boil water probably by 3 weeks' time. So who's monitoring these pumps and the levels of our water system now? Should Public Works not have been proactive back in March and had the infrastructure put in place coming from Fundy National Park? The weather wasn't an issue this year. So, you know, was it a consensual agreement by all members of this council to raise these rates? Did the financial impact that it will have on business owners and residents even come to mind? You know, with the rising costs of food, I can't understand how these restaurants are still going to be able to afford to buy bottled water again this year. The Alpine Inn owner told me they spent $5,700 last year in bottled water just for their guests. So Bob, is this part of your economic development plan for Alma to raise the water rates and make it even more difficult for these business owners and residents to come up with additional money? I'm not even utilizing 4073. There's nothing on that piece of land, but yet I'm paying $340. I write a check. It's due on March 31st for the first quarter. It sits in the office here for 15 days and doesn't get cash until April 15th. But yet Fundy Albert is so strapped for money. So why is my money sitting in a desk uncashed? And then when I raised the question, I was told, well, there's nobody to go to the bank. Do we not pay a treasurer a salary? Like, I'm really getting frustrated with paying for services and not getting them. I understand that infrastructure has to be paid for, but should you guys not entertain like a five-tier billing system? One for commercial, one for residential, one for seasonal, one for the poor guy that doesn't even utilize anything, but he's still paying $340. It doesn't make sense to me. And again, back to economic development. How is that going to encourage, nothing says welcome to Alma better than porta potties. You guys are gonna go down there and put porta potties for our tourists to use. And you tell me that it's to conserve water, but I know different. It's because we can't get our public works to go down there and clean those washrooms. That's the only reason why those bathrooms were shut down last year. It wasn't to conserve water. And if you tell me different, then that's not it. So, I mean, again, I just don't understand this decision this year when we were just awarded, what, $8 million for the new infrastructure? It doesn't make sense to me. Water's a necessity and it should be the 100% focus. Thank you again, John, Councillor Errol, for always, being there to represent Alma and look out for the residents of the community, because since this amalgamation, we certainly do feel that we're not part of Fundy Albert. And, I wish that we would separate from Hopewell Rocks down to Alma, have our own council, and because that little community deserves the attention. And if the history of, some of you members here, the animosity and the resentment that you hold against Alma. I mean, if I were sitting here, Alma would be my #1 focus. Because guess what? If Alma looks good, people are going to drive straight through the whole region and spend money all the way down there. And it's so very, very unfortunate. And it's unfortunate that I've had to place my development on hold because of that inability to look beyond Hillsborough. Thank you for your time. There's no need for any questions tonight. I'll wait for my email. And I am still waiting on the details of the Hillsborough Rec Council. I'm still very interested to know what's happening there. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. McBurney. I'll just see if any of the councillors have any questions for you. Councillor Land, do you have any questions or comments? Councillor Alberton?
Yeah, just one comment. Thank you again for your presentation. You make very good points. I just want to note, I guess for me, we are trying. We have struck a committee. I believe that Councillor Arrow is chairing. We are moving forward. We're trying to amalgamate. And as part of your question, we should be focusing on Alma. If we're at this table, my job as a councillor is to promote all of Fundy Albert. Alma is a part of that, but so is everywhere's in between from there to Lower Coverdale.
And I appreciate that, Loretta, and I've recognized your efforts in the past.
And my efforts will continue to become one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jonah?
Nothing, thanks.
Councillor Coates?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Burbrick.
Councillor Arrow?
Well, I think I'll say a few things just to help clarify some points on that you've raised, Michael. One about the rate increase, because there was a very substantial 50% more than last year rate increase. And it's unfortunate, but it's mandatory. And the reason why it's mandatory is that under the Local Governance Act, the law of the province, a local government is not able to run a deficit. And that holds true for the general operating budget and also for the utility, the water and sewer budgets. So it's incumbent on us to make sure that every year that we balance the books for general operating and the utility. And the utility is different, again, because all of the monies come from the ratepayers, essentially. There's some other minor revenue streams, but in general, it's the ratepayers have to pay for the entire system. So we've had significant cost increases on the Alma, and the 3 water sewer systems in Fundy Albert are completely separate financially. And they're separate systems. They're not connected in any way. And it's the ratepayers of the Hillsborough system pay for the Hillsborough system and so on for Alma and Riverside Albert.
But it's been driven into our heads that we're all amalgamated now, so why aren't these all amalgamated?
Well,
You know, the amalgamation works when it's convenient for Hillsborough. That's my opinion.
well,
And it's
there's,
unfortunate. And again, I certainly don't mind paying for something as long as I get to use it. And that's what bothers me.
yeah, so that's another point there that this is Councillor Elderkin just alluded to it. On the fair billing system, because you talked about your desire to maybe have a 5-tier system. In fact, the billing system that we have, the rate structure in Alma, as it is in the other systems, there is some tiering to it. So for instance, a commercial restaurant does not pay the same rate as a single-family dwelling. It's a function of the size of the restaurant, the number of tables and seats and so on. The same with an accommodation business like a hotel or motel. They pay multiple billing units depending on the size and so on. But it is true, and you run into this problem yourself, that we also charge people that are not even connected to the system an amount, even though they're not using it, because they're serviced. And so what I can tell you is council has realized that we need to review our rate structures throughout the 3 systems, and Alma is the most complex and the most problematic. And so we've struck a committee of council, an ad hoc, meaning a special purpose committee of council that happened at our last council meeting. I'm the chair. Loretta Elderkin is also a member. We have members. The first meeting is scheduled for next week. We have all of our members are already been identified. We have members from each of the 3 communities, ratepayers. We have a member from Englobe, who's our water partner in Alma and in Hillsborough, who is subject matter expert. And so we hope through this activity to come up with a proposal that will come back to council where we can have a more fair and modern rate structure. Whether it includes metering is yet to be seen. For all or part of the users. So in fact, the new water system in Alma is $12.2 million, more than 8, which is a good thing. That is happening. Why wasn't Fundy National Park already online? Well, part of the reason is Fundy National Park temporary link in Alma is coming. I guess if we'd known that we were going to have a crisis as early as we did, we might have tried to have it sooner, but remember, this was also a negotiation with our generous provider of Fundy National Park. They themselves are not particularly happy about having the blue pipe running down the hill. So they sort of bend over backwards to help our community in a time of need, and we're tremendously grateful for that. So it will be coming online. It will prevent us from running out of water this summer, I believe, unless there's some catastrophe, as it prevented us last year. Last year, we were faced with boil water orders throughout most of the summer, which we recognize the cost that this is to, especially the businesses. You mentioned an example. We're aware of.
Even for me, I have to bring water from Riverview.
Yes, I know, and it's terrible. But we don't really have an other option until such time as our new system, the new water resource, is online. So we're actively working on that. We now have, after many years, all of the funding in place. The activities are going on now for the design and not yet construction. So in the meantime, unfortunately, there is a conserve message, especially until the Fundy Park temporary link comes on again for this season, so it'll be coming on in May. And the last point, it is true that there continues to be some mysterious behavior of the water system. So for instance, last weekend's crisis, this where we seemingly are consuming more than we're producing, is not really understood by me. And I don't think it's really understood very clearly by any of our people who are managing the system, including our engineering partners. So we continue to learn and try and figure out where some of the water goes. But until such time as we solve this, we're faced with problems. And as we are, I can say that council it's about as high a priority as anything. And in terms of the money, the $12.2 million project is in the order of 2 times the entire Fundy Albert general operating budget for 1 year.
I know, but I'm having a hard time understanding why $200,000 would be spent on the walking trail in Hillsborough. That's $200,000 that could be given to the business owners for buying bottled water. I mean, these guys are struggling down there to operate, with food costs through the roof. I mean, it's, what I see happening is that we've already got 3 major businesses down there for sale. So who's to say somebody's gonna buy them and continue to operate? I mean, that's terrible. That's why I pulled my development out, because I don't really have much faith in this amalgamation. I don't see Alma being embraced for what it is. And I'm not saying that it's the most, there's beauty from Riverview straight down through. I love the entire area. That's why I bought 2 properties down there. That's why I was excited to open a business down there to generate more tourism. But that was quickly put aside.
Yeah.
And we know the reasons why. All over a simple ditch.
Thank you.
So, thank you, John, again, and Loretta. I appreciate your efforts.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Arrow, Councillor Ward Russell. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, just a couple. Again, Mr. McBurney, I greatly appreciate your time and I guess your dedication to this file. My job as a councillor is to be a united voice for all of us. And I hope to continue to try to do that. Like Councillor Elder, it has been tough. We're not going to sit here and lie to you and say that, everything's been glory, but I can sit here and tell you that we're trying our best. Conserve water, I don't see an issue with that. I live here in Lower Coverdale, I have my own well, but I am at my family every day to conserve water. 1-minute showers need to be decreased. So, I mean, it's okay to conserve, and I think we should be proactive in that.
Great, thank you. So, Mr. McBurney, I got a couple of things to say. First of all, there was a public meeting in Alma on April 10th.
Yes, at 7 o'clock at night.
Where the history of the water issues for the community of Alma were discussed by the engineering partners. There were quite a number of people there.
Yeah.
So they discussed the
7
history.
o'clock at night is not a convenient time.
I'm sorry, but it was the time that was best for everyone. So,
So 4
Now,
PM in Hillsborough is
sir,
convenient for
let
all
me
of you
speak.
as well.
You've had your time to speak. Let me speak, sir. So there was a public meeting where most of the questions that you're asking this evening were answered. And there is a video there. There was a video, I believe, of that PowerPoint presentation that's available. We can most certainly provide you that. It's actually, our CAO tells me it's on the website. As far as the non-usable water, the water that's there today is usable. It's potable. There's no boil water on. The incident that occurred, and it was 2 weeks ago, Councillor.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago tomorrow, there was an event. It wasn't a crisis. It was an event where through our Chief Administrative Officer and our Director of Operations, we felt it necessary to ask people to conserve because there was something that happened where water in the reservoir was depleted overnight. We asked folks to conserve, which some people look at that and say, there's a problem. Well, I don't see that necessarily as a problem because When we pull water out of the ground, there's only so much in the ground. It's not like it's on, in a lake somewhere. We're pulling it out of the ground. So from a person who has been a resident of even the community of Hillsborough, I urge people to conserve all the time, because you never know what kind of a summer we're gonna have. And then if we end up with a long, dry summer, we could all be in a mess. So we don't want to do that. So we ask folks to conserve. In this case, the request to conserve had the desired result, because the water level, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Saverin, the water level actually recovered over the weekend, after the weekend, and has been fairly stable all along. We are putting a temporary water supply, as Councillor Arrow has stated. That water supply should be going in fairly soon. And the goal is, unlike last year, because last year was a crisis point where there was no arrangement with Fundy National Park for monitoring of their water supply by us or through us, through the Department of Health. This year, those mechanisms are in place and hopefully will work to the extent that there should not be any boil water advisories for all of the community of Alma. Now, I say should because I can't guarantee it, but the pieces of the puzzle are in place for that to happen fairly quickly and to be in place prior to the heavy part of the tourism season. Last year, we were probably, if anything, I would criticize myself for us not reacting quickly enough last year to ask folks to conserve. This year, we've done it. It's had the desired result. And my hope is that we will not have a repeat of 2023 and 2024. Councillor Arrow points out that the three water systems are separate financially. We don't control that. That's the way it's done. We cannot mix monies from Hillsborough with Riverside, Albert, and Alma. And I would take exception to the suggestion that Alma is not a focus of this council. In fact, it is probably one of the top focuses of this particular council to ensure that the needs of Alma, particularly the water system, are front and center. So we will continue to do that. And I understand that you don't feel the same way, and that's fine.
It's not just me, Mayor. Like, are you listening to the public?
Yes.
I mean, the complaints that arise from this increase, like this increase to go from $230 to $340.
The rise in costs are the result of the investment that the government of Canada, the province of New Brunswick, and our municipality have to make in this system. It is a $12.24 million project. The cost to the ratepayers in Alma are $816,000. Now that's a lot of money, but it's also only 6.67% of the overall cost of $12.24 million. So those costs, we have to start charging those costs now. We cannot wait. We cannot wait until the project is finished. It's probably going to be a 3-year project. So I believe we're going to see a temporary water supply this year. We're going to likely see another temporary water supply next year. Hopefully, if things go well this year, they should go even more smoothly next year. But the goal is to be able to have that water supply. And if, like from my perspective, if I was to say, well, once the water supply's there, it's like, have at it, use up as much water as you can. That's not the goal. The goal will be to continue to conserve, because we're pulling a precious resource out of the ground. Right now, the situation that we're in is because the community of Alma has faced this situation probably for the last 10 years. It has been getting progressively worse. Don't ask me why, but I suspect it's because there are more Airbnbs in the community. There are more people who are making Alma a yearly location to live, but there's something that's causing that extra use of water. Last year, when we turned off the Alma the Fundy National Park water supply, the water use was spiking. So much so that we were going to do some searching to see if there was a leak. And then all of a sudden it stopped, the well recovered, and the reservoir filled up to the top. That's not indicative of a leak. That's not indicative of a leak in the system. It's an indicative of use of water consumption by someone. One thing, there's three things when we talk about the Alma water supply. One is the capacity of the well. It is a very small well, generally speaking. It's only capable of pushing out with both wells, I believe, Councillor Air, was 3.7, 3.6 liters per second. So that's with both wells running. And the reservoir is very small. So we cannot control how much the well can produce. It's at its maximum. We cannot control how much water the reservoir holds. That is outside our control. What we can control is how much we use. And that's what we're asking people, is just to be mindful and try to conserve where possible. We're not saying don't drink the water. We're saying try to conserve where possible. And our CAO put out some points to consider, like take shorter showers, turn off the tap while you're brushing your teeth. It's amazing the amount of water that you can use if you just leave the tap run for 2 or 3 minutes. So we're just asking folks to help us during this difficult period, and hopefully we'll have a much nicer summer than we had last year. As far as and you mentioned the trail funding, I feel compelled to speak to that. The trail funding is government money from the federal government that we received specifically for a trail project. We cannot use it for anything else.
So what about the property taxes? Why can't you utilize some of the property?
Sir, you wanted to talk about water, I'm talking about water. Property taxes in Alma did not change last year to this year.
No, but what I'm saying is why can't you use a percentage of the property tax money to go towards water?
I'm not sure I understand which property tax money you're talking.
Meaning, I think you're meaning to use general operating.
That cannot be done.
That's what funds the property tax funds the general operating. The property tax does not fund the water.
That's right.
The water, all the water and wastewater costs must be borne only by the ratepayers, which is different than the taxpayers.
Yeah, but we're all ratepayers, all the way from Lower Coverdale straight through to Alma.
No, in fact, the ratepayers are, when I use that term, are really meaning only people who are either using the system or who are being charged to use the system because it basically is able to service their property. We have many people, most people actually in Fundy Albert are not ratepayers for one of the 3 water and sewer systems.
Yeah, but there's property owners in Alma, and the infrastructure goes right past that parcel of land, and they're not expected to pay.
If there's a service connection, they are expected to pay.
Well, there are
If-
residents down there that aren't.
There are many residents, there are residents in Alma who, because they're not considered in the service area, going out towards Hebron, Route 915, they are within the municipality. They don't pay for the use, they don't pay for the water service because they don't have access to it.
No, I understand that.
So to suggest that the taxpayers' money be used to fund a water supply that benefits only the people who have access to the water at a logical level, to me, doesn't make sense. And we cannot be using tax dollars from any other Fundy Albert taxpayers to pay for a water supply that's to benefit that community. Let me put it to you this way. Hillsborough is in need of a new water supply. We have been for some time, because we had a situation probably 5 or 6 years ago where the community of Hillsborough almost ran out of water. When that happens, it's only the ratepayers in the community of Hillsborough who will pay for that water. In Riverside, Albert, they had a new water line project and there were costs associated with that. It's only the ratepayers in the community of Riverside, Albert who pay for that.
So then why are we amalgamated? If we're not benefiting, if we're not all benefiting.
Your question should be asked to the Minister of Department of Environment and Local Government, not us.
Oh, I've spoken with them. So
Anyway, so thank you very much for your presentation, sir. You're more than welcome to, and the presentation that was provided to the public at the April 10th meeting is on the website. So please have a visit, and you can actually hear our engineering partner go through the entire explanation of how we got to where we are and what the path looks like going forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, item number 7. So we are going to touch on a couple of bylaws. There are 2 bylaws for consideration this evening for second and third reading. I will note that the first readings took place during the April 2nd regular meeting. Notices of the bylaws and the drafts of the bylaws were posted on the village's website for the 14 days as required in section 15.3 of the Local Governance Act. So we will now proceed with second reading of bylaw 2024-06, a dangerous or unsightly premises bylaw for Fundy Albert. I'll accept a motion for second reading by section only.
I move the second reading by section only be given to bylaw 2024-06 by the bylaw relating to dangerous or unsightly premises in the village of Fundy Albert as follows. 1, definitions. 2, offenses and penalties relating to dangerous or unsightly premises. 3, notice to owner or occupier. 4, evidence. 5, appeal. 6, registering a notice. 7, offense and penalty for failure to comply with the notice. 8, power to clean, repair, or demolish. 9, report required before demolition. 10, emergency. 11, offense and penalty for obstruction. 12, recovery of Fundy Albert costs, filing of certificate. 13, lien. 14, debts paid by the Minister of Finance. 15, repeal. 16, coming into force.
So moved by Councillor Elderton. Is there a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Ward Russell. Any discussion on the motion? So this would be the time to, if there are any amendments to be brought to the bylaw, that would be the time to bring them forward.
Did we receive any feedback? I noticed that the draft bylaw is available on our website, and we received no feedback.
And they were posted, notices were posted twice per week for 2 weeks prior to. All right, so if there are no questions, all in favor of the motion to adopt the dangerous or unsightly premises bylaw that is in draft as our dangerous or unsightly premises bylaw, signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. So we'll now proceed with the third reading, which is a requirement. So there's 3 readings of the bylaw. So we'll now proceed with the third reading of bylaw 2024-06, a dangerous or unsightly premises bylaw for Fundy Albert. I'll accept a motion by someone for third reading by title only.
I can still do that. I move that the third reading by title only be given to bylaw 2024-06, a bylaw relating to dangerous and unsightly premises in the village of Fundy Albert. I so move.
So moved by Councillor Ward Russell, seconded by Councillor Land. Any discussion on the motion? Not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? Motion's carried unanimously. So bylaw 2024-06 is hereby adopted. I'll stop there for a second. So with council's indulgence, there was a 2-minute presentation that was requested. So I'd like to go back to the previous section of presentations. There was someone who registered for a 2-minute presentation, if you will so allow me. And the name is Katia Tremblay.
Gold star for you.
Tremblay or Tremblay?
It's Tremblay.
Tremblay.
Yes.
On the community playground sports field. My apologies for skipping over you, but always better late than never.
Okay, so I'm Katya Tremblay. We chose to move here from Ontario pre-COVID and we have never regretted it. Our daughter goes to middle school in Hillsborough. I'm a full-time working mom. I have a part-time gig. I now have a second full-time job with Home and School as secretary and continually fundraising for our kids so they can have something because they are at the point where they have nothing. Since 2022, our sports field has been condemned, according to Donna Godfrey, who is a director of education for the district. And then according to the assistant manager of facilities, and I didn't bring one of my 20 notebooks, so I don't have his name with me. He said it is not condemned. So the kids don't have a sports field. So any kind of outdoor activity, sports, whatnot for high school, middle schoolers, forget it. The middle school kids recently lost their swing set, which was the only piece of equipment they had. They had a lonely tetherball pole with half a string, no ball. Broken frisbees, a few good frisbees. In the elementary school, we have playground equipment that is rusting out, footings that are sticking a foot above the ground, which is actually unsafe. They're shifting. The pavilion is rotting. It's a disgrace. So we have been working diligently the last 18 months with our home school committee and the 4 executives, the co-presidents, myself, and the treasurer have put in countless hours, a full-time job by the end of the week sometimes. So far, we have raised $10,000 towards a playground. We're finalizing the numbers in the next 2 weeks. We actually got drawings back yesterday for a proposed playground. We're looking at about $350,000 to replace this playground. The school district takes no responsibility for it. It falls onto the community. So we are about to launch a campaign, so to speak, to start seriously fundraising. Starting June 9th, we have a spring fair. And Party Perfect has actually volunteered to help us and donate inflatables and obstacle courses. There's going to be a petting zoo, touch a truck. All of this is being done through volunteer hours and us donating our time and a little bit of money here and there. So I'm here to ask council if you guys will step up and help us. And as a beautiful lady sitting up there said, council is a united voice for all of us. So what we're asking you guys to do is help us lobby the province and help them get more funding. Find someone to, if not apply for grants for us, because that is time consuming, at least find grants and we will continue to apply for them. Just to help us get this funding, we are hoping to accumulate $350,000 in 2 years. So at least our kids will have something before the entire playground is ripped out. So yeah, so I want to make everybody, there are a lot of people in the community aware. I want everybody to be aware how dire it is for the kids in our community. And I'm hoping that council will be able to help us out, even if it's coming to our events and you know, helping volunteer hours, spending a little bit of money on the activities we have going on, finding us some grants that we can apply for, just so we're not tirelessly working, because it is between the 4 of us that are on the executive team. We're working 10 to 30 hours a week on top of our full-time jobs, on top of our families. So we're hoping that you guys will be able to help us out somehow.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll just ask the councilors if they have any questions for you. Thank you very much for an impassioned plea. Councilor Land?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. I do believe you have something, June 9th. Is that what I hear?
Yes, so June 9th at the Kiwanis Club from 1 till 4 p.m. They have a fun fair. So we have a petting zoo, touch a truck, a little mini fire truck that the kids can ride on. They have glitter tattoos, bouncy castles, inflatable obstacle courses, a cakewalk. They're going to do a bake sale.
Is that something that we can advertise on our website? Okay, we should put that in. And also, yeah, I was overlooked at the playground. It is need of some TLC for sure. It's been a long time. So I support your efforts and I'll be in contact with you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that was 2 to 4?
1 to 4.
Wonderful. See how quickly.
I said 2 to 4, I don't know.
Even better. Councillor Elderkin.
I sympathize to what you have left ahead. We currently just went through that in Riverside, Albert. I'm
Yeah.
not sure, but they did a fantastic job. And I would have no hiccups in reaching out to somebody that might be able to give you some ideas of what, how they went about it, because they did apply for some grants through the committee of their own. It wasn't done through the village. But if you want, I can certainly give you a name to contact and maybe they could offer you some advice because they just
Yeah.
recently went through it. And I don't know if you've seen it, but it's absolutely beautiful.
We actually went down, I think it was March, we went down when we started finalizing what we wanted from a playground.
Yeah, it's an absolutely beautiful playground and they might be able to help you out or give you some ideas.
Perfect, we appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jonah.
Appreciate your presentation. Some of us council members are absolutely wandering around the whole school property on the weekend. There's a lot of challenges up there for sure. But just by your presentation, I can tell that they've got somebody really keen that's heading this up. I really appreciate that. And June 9th, I will be there with my grandkids to support.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Councillor Ward Russell.
Yeah, so some of us were in Hillsborough on Saturday. We did do a tour of the school grounds. I got a couple of words here. I didn't want to use the word disgusted, but I'll just use the word alarmed with the status of the playground and the soccer field. So I guess what I would propose and suggest is, I think we did talk about it on Saturday as well, is that take a guess that our superintendent has probably never made his way down to the Caledonia Regional High School himself in person to see, you know, what they're experiencing. So I would suggest that we ask for an in-person meeting with Randy McLean and Mr. Harry Doyle.
And that is something we have tried to do, but Donna Godfrey is like the best stonewaller I've ever come across.
Well, I can suggest that maybe we can try to overcome that and go over that brick wall and see if we can't get them both. I mean, there's no sense of a Teams meeting. I mean, I think it's better in person, and not only in person, but in person on the school grounds. That's how they're actually gonna see it for themselves. Yes, I would encourage RCO to fulfill that.
Yeah. And I just want to make clear too, we're doing the playground and not the school field because the district takes no responsibility for the playground. They won't fund a playground, which is fine, but they do take responsibility for the sports field. So they should be ponying up for that. And from what I understand, they got a quote at $250,000 and they've done nothing.
Yeah.
And that was quite a while ago, so.
Yeah, so pick our battles, I guess. So
Yeah.
pick, come up with something that's attainable. And I think, by having this meeting and going after the playground, I think that's what we should do. Appreciate Councillor Elderkin. I mean, the whole slogan of friendly by nature, there's another input of, sources and, availability of, they've been through this in Albert and maybe that whoever wrote that proposal is willing to share, even get access to that proposal so that you can, find out where those funds were granted from.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Errol.
The only thing I would add is that Fundy Albert, the municipal council, does it through our administration, administers our own granting amounts of upwards of 40,000 and more this year. Most of that, the call for grants has already happened, and 80% of that amount is already about to be doled out.
Yeah.
But there's monies remaining, and I urge you to have a look at the grants and
Perfect.
contributions.
We do have that on our list for next week. It was a matter of getting all
Yeah.
of our ducks in a row to get the grant applications done, and it seems like it's a never-ending process, but one day.
It's certainly not 350,000 that's available there, but there's monies that every dollar counts, I'm sure.
Yeah. Councillor Coates.
On Saturday, I had my first visit to the playgrounds, and it's a deplorable condition. And I think all the counselors that were there will do everything they can to help you. Thank you.
Perfect, and I appreciate you guys seeing I don't even know what word I want to use, but investing in our kids now in something as simple as a playground is a huge investment in the community, because if we want to continue to grow, we need to attract young families. And the way the school and the playground is starting to look, that's not happening.
Okay, so I'll speak, I guess. There were a number of us at the school on Saturday. But it was more about the parking lot, because the parking lot is in horrible condition. So we are working with folks to try to draw attention to that, to see if we can get that fixed, because from my perspective, that's a safety issue. The soccer field, yes, I'm aware, it's Superintendent McLean who claimed that the school soccer field is not condemned. It is condemned by Soccer New Brunswick. It's not fit to be used for sanctioned events.
The kids aren't allowed to play on it at all.
What they have done is that they've put a fence all the way around it, which is a plus. But that's not the fix. The fix is it needs to be resurfaced. There are a lot of trenches and places to roll an ankle and those types of things. So it does need a lot of attention. So there is an ongoing effort by this council with the Anglophone East School District to create what's called a reciprocal agreement, where we would partner with them to try to fix that and or maintain it in exchange for other things from the school. Or in other words, allow people in the community to use their facilities at no charge. That is an ongoing conversation. The playground, I'm aware that of their position on that is that that's to be funded totally by the Holman School Association. I am well aware of that. The amount of money that the Anglophone East School District has is, I believe it was penned at 2 million for 30 schools. Well, you can hardly build a house now for $1 million in some locations. So to have $2 million to look after the needs of 30 schools is a little on the ridiculous side.
And I think like, we chose to be rural, which is fine.
Right.
We knew we were making sacrifices,
Yeah.
but being rural does not mean we're not worthy. And you look at the schools in Riverview, the sports teams, our tennis or our badminton and volleyball nets. I mean, they're supposed to be nets, but they have huge gaping holes in them. And then you get the schools in Riverview that have 3-4 gyms, and it's like our kids need something,
Right.
right? And I think that's where the frustration is with a lot of the parents and the community at this point, is our kids don't have anything.
So your plea is not falling on deaf ears. Obviously, a number of our counselors are prepared to go to your event. I can't commit tonight because I don't have my calendar right in front of me, but if I'm free, I'll be there.
Right, and you know what, just hearing that we have your support and you guys are willing to be the voice of the people, that's my new slogan, by the way, I'm stealing that one. You guys are willing to stand up and lobby for us. I think we feel like we're more likely to be heard, and by feeling like we're more likely to be heard, I feel like I can run another marathon with this, because it's what it's been the last 18 months is a marathon, so.
So thank you very much for your impassioned appeal, and you're more than welcome to stay for the remainder of the council meeting if you'd like. We're not going to be too much longer anyway. So we will now go back to item number 7. So we'll proceed with the second reading of bylaw 2022-04A, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2022-04, bylaw respecting the remuneration of council for Fundy Albert. This bylaw will be read in its entirety as it's very brief. There's no bisection because it's a very brief. So if I could have someone read that, if I could, please.
I move that the second reading in its entirety be given to bylaw 2022-04A, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2022-04, a bylaw respecting the remuneration of council for Fundy Albert. Bylaw number 2022-04A, a bylaw to amend bylaw 0222-04, a bylaw respecting the remuneration of council for Fundy Albert, pursuant to the authority vested in it by the Local Governments Act, SMB 2017, 18 and its amendments, the municipality of council of Fundy Albert duly assemble and acts as follows. The word shall in section 2 of bylaw number 2022-04 is replaced by the word may.
So moved by Councillor Elderkin, seconded by Councillor Land. Any discussion on the motion? Not, all in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. We'll now proceed with the third reading of bylaw 2022-04A, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2022-04, a bylaw respecting remuneration of council for Fundy Albert in title only. If I could get someone to read that. Yes, Councillor Land.
I move that the third reading by title only be given to bylaw 2022-04A, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2022-04, a bylaw respecting the remuneration of council for Fundy Albert.
So moved by Councillor Land. Is there a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Coates. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any? The motion is carried. So bylaw 2022-04A is hereby adopted. We will now move on to mayor and councillor statements and inquiries, item number 8 on the agenda. So I would ask maybe Councillor Land, if you would go first, please.
Yeah. Sure. The last months, I was at UMB meeting down in Albert. Yeah. The Union Municipalities and Brunswick met on Saturday morning. We had a good meeting, got some good information. Jim chairs the ATV club. We had a Trailblazer meeting 2 weeks ago. We shared some information and putting some things together. And we're going to follow up the meeting on May 27th, I do believe. We was at a Kiwanis supper on Saturday night. The governor for the Kiwanis was there, so it was a good group, probably 50, 60 people. And we also had some strategic planning on 2 Saturdays ago. We spent the day looking after some of the things that are more important to Fundy Albert and set that strategic plan together. That's it from me for now.
Great, thank you. Councillor Elderton.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to give the fireman's report for the first quarter of, it's on behalf of Fire Chief Osmond. As of April 1st, 2024, they have had 14 meetings, and during these meetings, there has been training, general meetings, scene debriefments, cleaning of fire hall and trucks, truck checks, equipment maintenance, and other duties required for the team to operate safely and efficiently. They have attended multiple emergency calls, 11 up until April 1st. So far, with 5 were multiple calls for Elma, Hillsborough, and Fundy Park. 6 calls for rescue, 1 accident, 2 trees and power lines, and 2 residential basement floods that require pumping out of their basements. They've helped out with a few community events, such as the opening of the Lumsden Bridge and flooding local ponds. Their pancake breakfast went over very well. He wanted to say thank you for everyone for coming out to support. As of April 1st, they had 21 members, and they are looking to recruit some more. 7 of the members are currently finishing their level 1 certification. These members have committed every Tuesday and Thursday evening and some weekends for this course, and still obtaining training on Wednesday evenings as well. Fire Chief Osmond would like to thank all the Riverside Albert Fire Department volunteers for the time dedicated to their fire department. Again, I can't emphasize enough what these volunteer firefighters do for our communities. They're a staple. They go up over and above for all 3 communities and anywhere in between. I attended the Harvey Hall annual AGM. They were excited to report a great 2023 and have many exciting plans for 2024. Congratulations to the Riverside Albert and Elma volunteers for yet another successful year of breakfasts, fundraisers. A few residents have reached out in appreciation of a property cleanup that was completed, and wanted to say thank you to the Fundy Albert team for the perseverance of getting this completed. I participated in the strategic planning day with fellow mayor and councillors. Thank you everyone who took the time to help clean up Fundy Albert during Earth Week. It was very much appreciated, and I currently am working on the committee with Councillor Arrow and getting our our ad hoc committee up and running.
Thank you. Councillor Jonah.
Couple of weeks ago, I went to the Zone 2 meeting hosted by Fundy Albert down at Broadway. Had the best corn chowder I've ever had. I'd like to thank them for that. It was amazing and very well put together, well attended, and I think Bob, you did a really good job organizing that. I'd like to thank you. As well, on Saturday, I did the Kiwanis 78 Charter Night. It was a good night there. They had the Lieutenant Governor in, and it was a really good night all around. There was a few of us that attended that, and it was a really good night. Other than that, Wednesday night at the fire hall, it was brought to my attention there may be some problems with the purchasing agreements that have been put out, and they would like to set up some kind of meeting between the fire chiefs, the councillors, and the mayor, as well as our CAO here in the near future to talk about that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ward Russell.
Perfect. So I might be repeating myself with some of the other councillors, but it's been a busy past few weeks with a number of meetings, events, which included attending the Riverside Albert Fire Department breakfast, the strategic planning day in Hillsborough, attended the UMNB meetings where Fundy Albert was the host of this event. Also had a meeting with ELG on the status of the Greensboro Lagoon. And also I'd like to thank the residents of Lower Coverdale for their support in Earth Day, as I believe based on some pictures I've seen, there was quite a bit of garbage that was collected, so thank you. I don't want to be seen or heard as a broken record, but I think we need to become more of a party to DTI. There's been a few emails that have been sent to them with zero response. Recently, some prime agriculture fields adjacent to Route 114 have been out of commission due to the runoff from McGarry Road and the highway. I understand that ditching is not important for DTI, and also must mention that our side roads, especially the ones in the new White Birch subdivision, are a disgrace. I'd like to suggest that we ask for an in-person meeting with DTI representatives with regarding to getting answers and timelines, some important work that needs to be completed. Again, I'm sure my issues are not only related to Ward 6. Also understand that the street light over at 114 at Baxter is not working, so I'm wondering if maybe Kim has looked at it in the past, could look into this for us. Finally, with our connection to Connecting Albert County, I know it's been mentioned in the past, but it would be great if we could actually get some copies make their way into wards 5 and 6.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Errol.
I don't really have too much. I mentioned we're almost having the first meeting for the Water and Sewer Bylaw Consolidation Committee is next Monday, May 13th. And Red and I are working with our members on getting that going. I received and passed along to council today the regular update from Fundy National Park. Their big summer season is starting sort of in two stages. So May 19th is a big day for them with a number of things opening in the park. And then on May 21st, even more is opening. For instance, on the May 19th date, the golf club opens, and the May 21 date, the interpretation program and the pool opens. And the only other thing to report is I noticed today that the remedial work for the sidewalk for the culvert repair on the 114 in Alma on Main Street to correct some of the deficiencies is underway as of today. So that's good. That's it.
Good, thank you. Councillor Coates.
Councillor Ryan stated we met with the Albert County ATV club and had a good, just get to know each other. Basically, two of the others didn't attend. They had planned on attending, so we didn't get into the nuts and bolts of anything. I received the minutes from the meeting, and we're they're interested as to look at us to look at the bylaw that's in Salisbury, but I went on their site and looked at the bylaw, and they started it in 2023, but it's never been passed, so I'm gonna have to find what is holding it up. And, the only other thing I'm very, worried about the, words that are out to on the Route 910 closure. I asked on the breakfast on Saturday, James Lyman knew about it through working for DTI. He told all the fire departments for us that it was gonna be closed. The post that was closed as of yesterday, the signs aren't, and this going high running there the last 2 days. So there's a very poor communications with, if it's public safety that's doing it or TBI, I don't know, but I'd like to find out. That's it. Thank you.
So I'm not going to repeat what everybody has said of all the meetings and functions that have been attended to over the past month. I'm going to focus my attention on the significant rainfall event that occurred on February 28th and the premature failure of a culvert on the Golf Club Road, which has some significant implications for the municipality, for all really of Fundy Albert. So the culvert had been deteriorating for quite some time, and it was believed it would be replaced by the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure in accordance with the reference manual titled Department of Transportation and Infrastructure and New Brunswick Municipalities Reference Manual. In it refers to culverts and drainage structures where if the department is providing maintenance services on behalf of the municipality, which it is, the cleaning, thawing, and maintenance of culverts across the road on all roads, streets, provincial highways, and regional highways in a municipality is a departmental responsibility if the culvert is not connected to any underground drainage system. That was in a document that was published by DTI in 2017. So when the culvert collapsed as a result of the February 28th weather event, we reached out to DTI. Their response was that the replacement of the culvert is now a municipal responsibility, citing in part changes to the New Brunswick Highway Act. Since that time, there have been contacts with members of the New Brunswick legislature and others such as political candidates. We were informed that the replacement of the culvert, estimated through an engineering report to be approximately $750,000 for one culvert, might be eligible for disaster relief program funding. A request to EMO was sent in. Late last week, the province notified us that the disaster program funding was being made available. Documentation confirming the damage is currently being prepared, even though we went out to them by email to let them know that this was a problem and we needed some assistance to fix it. We are going to follow it up with formal documentation in forms of letters and estimates and so on. We are hopeful that the replacement of the culvert will be fully covered, so there will be more to come in relation to this. So there's some encouraging news, but I wouldn't say that it's time to say we're across the finish line. So I just wanted the council and the public to know that as well. So that's it for me. So we will now move, unless someone has any questions about that, we'll now move on to item number 9, which is notices of motions and resolutions. So there was a resolution to be considered this evening for Canada Day funding. If someone would be so kind as to read that.
Whereas the communities of Alma and Hillsborough have requested funding for Canada Day celebrations and fleet launch Alma only, and whereas the estimated cost would be $13,240 after receipt of the Heritage Canada grants, be it resolved that the Village of Fundy Albert authorizes the transfer of $2,991 from the Hillsborough Rec Council budget and $5,999 from unbudgeted revenue to the general operating fund to fund these celebrations.
So moved by Councillor Alberkin. Is there a seconder on that motion? seconded by Councillor Ward Russell. Any discussion on the motion? Any questions on the motion? Councillor Elderkin?
Yeah, I think I'm just looking for maybe a little more clarification from our CEO before we dive in too deep here.
Yes, so at the meeting that we were looking at the grants and contributions program, I was asked to look for additional information on Canada Day celebrations. What I heard at that time was that Hillsborough only did Canada Day celebrations, Alma did Canada Day as well as Fleet Launch. So trying to find a way to provide some funding for both of those in a fair and equitable manner. So we did receive confirmation from Heritage Canada that we received 2 grants for $2,880 each. Under it has to be 2 separate events. We can't have any joining of the events. They're saying that our municipality is large enough that if one is going on in Hillsborough and one is going on in Alma, enough distance in between would make it that we could apply this funding. I should note that one of those grants was under the Hillsborough Rec Council, and we have been told that we should not do that next year. They've made an exception. They're going to allow it this year. So moving forward, we will have to have a better plan in place for the budget in the fall. So with those 2 grants, and there is some money in the Hillsborough Rec Council bank accounts, $2,991. That means we can fund the Canada Day. It's $19,000, so it would be $10,000 for Hillsborough. It'd be $9,000 for Canada Day and Fleet Launch for Alma. Alma also there's an amount that they're getting through the grant program, should you approve the grant program. So that means the only dollar amounts left are the transfer of the funds from the Hillsborough Rec Council and taking $5,999 from a unbudgeted revenue, which is interest from bank accounts, in order to put the money together to fund all of those events.
Any other questions, Councillor Elderkin?
Yeah, the unbudgeted revenue. I appreciate the fact that I think we're into May and Canada Day is coming before we think. I think we may have to look at all this process. I think we've heard numerous times tonight, we have other things, we have lots of things to pay for, and I think we have to come up with a better plan as far as continuing what may have been the norm in the past. I think we may have to look at the whole picture moving forward.
Okay. So could you indicate whether you'll be in support of this motion or not?
I will be supportive of this motion for this year.
All right. Great, thank you. Councillor, I believe Ward Russell, you seconded the motion. Any comments, questions?
No, I appreciate the information provided, and I guess Councillor Elderkin asked some questions, so I'm good.
Okay, Councillor Arrow, you had questions?
Yeah, I do have, so we're transferring money, some from, is that the remaining balance for the Hillsborough Rec Council?
Yes, it is.
That's called
Correct.
ours, yeah.
Correct, yeah,
So it doesn't go to 0.
correct.
The other number, unbudgeted revenue, interest, general operating interest of $33,000. Was that like $33,000 interest?
That's the amount that's in that total unbudgeted revenue. Some of that could come from, it could come from like a water bill that was paid that was long overdue. I know we had somebody that just sold a house recently and then they had to pay off the last of the water bills. Some of that money from the interest of those things go into that account.
Hang on, doesn't water all?
The water portion, the bill part, but the interest portion of it goes into the unbudgeted, I believe. I can double check that one. But I was told it was from bank accounts, the interest that we get off of bank accounts, among other things.
I ran a quick number. I'm getting 5% interest on my bank accounts or the GICs. And to get 33,000, that's $660,000 in some bank account at say 5%.
I'd have to come back to you with an answer on that.
Okay. Because we've just been through the budgeting exercise. Bob, do you understand what this is?
There are some sizable sums of money sitting in some accounts, Councillor Arrow, so that is not surprising. It happens pretty much every year. That there is some interest on accounts that we hold.
Would this be part of our reserves as well that former villages had?
It could be, I don't know the answer, so we'd have to ask the treasurer. But I do know that in the past, there have been some significant interest on accounts.
I guess I will support the motion, but I would like to understand at some other time what actually is an unbudgeted revenue from interest really all about.
Sure. Councillor Coates, any questions?
The only one I have is, I support the motion, but I would like, I think the planning for all wards will be part of the 2025 budget discussion. Because, as we know, Ward 5 and Ward 6 are the money wards. If you want to put it at that, and we're getting nothing. You know, we can go to Hillsborough. Well, I shouldn't say we're already getting, or Alma. But we're all one. So we should maybe look at 1 year doing in Ward 6, maybe, and go to Ward 1, you know, but that's discussion for the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Land, any comments, questions?
Yes, I was curious about the 33,589 as well, but we'll leave that to one answer. I do have maybe a comment too about the grants money in the future. I think we should be looking at what they're spent on. Yeah, I don't think it should be just open-handed, and we should have a report back of what it was spent on. Just for clarification, so we know where people's money's going, right? So I think that needs to be in discussion with some clarification in the future before we set that grant precedent again.
You mean the Heritage Canada one,
No.
or the grants and contributions?
The
So in
grants.
the policy for the grants and contributions, that is a requirement.
Okay.
Hey, Councillor Joanna?
No question, just want to thank Linda and her team for making this work for all of us this year, and, I just wanted to know that there is an active Hillsborough Rec Council. We've had a couple meetings now, and, we're prepared to start fundraising for next year's portion of Canada Day for the village building.
Thank you. I just have one question. I know that, the Hillsborough Rec Council budget, which is kind of being transitioned right now, that it typically held some funding for the Literacy Express program. Is that funding still within the municipal?
This money does not include the
Correct.
money for the
That's
literacy,
all I wanted.
or for there's some particular action funds.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Secondly, I think and I take, Councillor Coates' comment, I think I would tend to agree. We may have to look at revisiting how we do Canada Day celebrations in our community. Fireworks can be expensive. Is it really necessary to do that as opposed to trying to have an event in each ward and or change them up from year to year? Maybe do a couple of different wards with different events. It's probably quite difficult to do fireworks in some of the different wards, but perhaps we can do something a little more festive, but not as brief and less costly. So anyway, I know, what I'm saying might not seem very popular, but I'm just throwing it out there for council's consideration, because I think we do need to think of one and to spread the goodwill around, if you would. So that's all the comments that I had. So on the motion as was presented, all in favor of the motion signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed, if any? The motion's carried. So the second item on notices of motions is an item that was tabled at the April 2nd meeting, which was the motion to adopt the grants and contributions program. So I would need, in order to further consider that, I would need a motion from council to take that motion back from the table.
I'll make a motion.
So Councillor Elderkin would move to take that motion back from the table, seconded by Councillor Coates. And it does need a majority vote in order to bring it back from the table for consideration. Any questions on that motion to take it back from the table? Not, all in favor, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. So that motion is back on the table and I'll read it. So it said, whereas the Council of the Village of Fundy Albert has a grants and contributions program policy in place, whereas applications have been received in accordance with the policy, be it resolved that the Council of the Village of Fundy Albert approve the following monetary grants. So for Friends of Fundy, for the Rising Tides Festival, an amount of $3,000. Literacy Express preschool program was $3,000. The Harvey Hall for building improvements was $2,490. Alma Rec Council for building improvements was $1,000. The Alma Collective for the Alma Fleet Launch activities was $4,000. Forestdale Home for an elevated garden bed was $250. The Hillsborough District Minor Hockey Association, which is an annual minor hockey grant, was $8,000. The Albert County Historical Society for a traveling exhibit project was $3,000. The Albert County Exhibition sponsorship was $1,000. The Shepparton Fish and Game Association annual fall supper sponsorship was $250. Fundy Blades Figure Skating Club, an annual figure skating grant of $4,000, and the New Brunswick Railway Museum grant of $3,000. For a total of $32,990. It was also, be it further resolved that the Council of the Village of Fundy Albert authorizes the Chief Administrative Officer to approve other in-kind contribution requests. And that was moved and seconded at our meeting, so.
If I can make one, we have removed $250 from the Alma Collective request for the Canada Day while we were debating this, and I'd like to be able to put that one back in, bringing the total to $33,240.
So I do need an amendment to that motion. There does need to be an amendment to that motion to change the amount from the Alma Collective from 4,000 to 4,250. If not, it stays at 4,000. So moved by Councillor Jonah. Is there a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Coates. So the motion would be amended to change the amount for the Alma Collective for the Alma Fleet Launch activities from 4,000 to 4,250. So it's essentially another $250 for the total cost of $33,240. We have moved and seconded. Now we can have the question and or debate. Yes.
What was the 254?
With the Alma Collective, it actually put in a request for $4,000 for fleet launch and $250 for Canada Day. And that's why the $4,250 was in the Canada Day celebration table.
So does that explain why adding $250 there?
Because the $250 for their Canada Day request, their grant request, wasn't included on here at the time.
It wasn't recommended.
You had asked it to be removed until we debated and decided on the Canada Day portion.
I don't think it was recommended from the get-go though, was it? Like on the first grants request, wasn't the 250 wasn't included?
No.
I think it was denied on the first. If I go back and look at I was just looking at it earlier here. I don't think it was approved at the beginning. Just trying to find it, sorry. Because it was at the committee of the whole, I believe.
So in my council report at the time, I recommended that $250 be removed until we had decided what was going to happen with Canada Day celebration.
Okay.
It was under the recommendations.
Yeah, I was just looking for the spreadsheet that you had sent us with all the information on it.
So does that answer your questions, Councillor Overton?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, anyone else have any questions?
I think Councilor Land did talk with us a little bit. I mean, this is a fair amount of money and again, this is a shared service that all wards, all residents of Fundy Albert are contributing to. It's one thing of just giving the money. I understand CEO has just mentioned that do they get the full payment right up front, or how does that work? Do they, let's just, the Alma Collective, will they get the $4,000 What do they have to show to you to get the $4,000?
So it depended on the dollar amount and the request, but the policy states at certain levels of money that there are certain requirements. So at the 4,000, you would definitely have to come back and present to council what the benefit was to the community, what the event was, how successful it was. If it was something under, I think it was under the 500, I'd have to look at it again, apologize. Under a certain amount, it could be just that they needed to send in an explanation of what it was that they did. So
But they get the money up front.
they get the money up front, correct? Some of them don't need it until later on in the season, like they've stated when they need the money for, and we will abide by that requirement if approved.
So I'm fine for this year, but I do think there should be a topic of conversation that we put on I'm not gonna say the budget, but on an agenda in the near future, because things are just a little. So we've talked about this enough, over the last number of meetings, but I'm still not comfortable with how it works.
Can I have one question, Bob? On the in-kind contribution request, is there a limit on that? How does that play it?
Not currently, it's in kind is that can Public Works come and, plow the road on February frolic so we can get into the parking lot? Or can we use the community center for a event? So it's things that don't have a monetary value, but it's an in-kind service of. So we will be tracking those and trying to put a dollar amount to them so we can say what kind of dollar amount that would actually be if they had to pay for it, so.
Yeah, I think that's great, because then we can tell the public what the in-kind is, and that opens that door of, sharing back and forth.
Yeah, because some of that does have salary dollars attached to it, so, yeah.
Yeah, okay, thanks, I appreciate that.
Any other questions?
Well, I think there is, I commented on the last time we discussed this, that the in-kind contributions are also subject to the other policy,
Yes.
which is for the use of municipal resources for third parties. Essentially, it's in kind. And that so there's a whole dedicated policy to that there is a dollar amount that's listed in there, if I recall. Remember? Pretty sure of it. And there's a requirement to report back at the very next council meeting.
Like, it is to be reported to the council. Correct. No, it's in there.
But yeah, but I believe there's a dollar amount. 2,000 maybe?
Yeah, we would have. to-
You
We would have to. look
you
at
need
it.
to be aware of that, Linda.
Yeah.
That policy is in place. 1,000, yeah.
Yeah.
So there is a limit where your discretion ends.
Are we ready for the question?
Yeah.
On the amendment, which would increase the amount for the Alma Collective from 4,000 to 4,250, with the overall cost being 33,240. On that amendment, all in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any. Motion's carried. So thank you. That is it for motions and resolutions. This is the opportunity for public comments and statements. So if there are any members of the public here this evening that would like to comment or make a public statement, we would limit it to about 15 minutes. So now's your opportunity. If you have something, maybe this is your first opportunity to attend a council meeting, you want to say something, by all means.
Yeah.
Just stand up and identify yourself.
I'm Steph from Middlesbrough. We ran this year a pilot program at the arena with the Fun Blade Skating Club. We brought in skaters from Dieppe, from Riverview, Moncton. We also were able to rent the ice to several of the other hockey associations or associations. So we think that it was very successful, and we're looking forward to potentially doing again next year, as well as potentially, a lot of this in right now. Maybe I should have put my name down for presentation. We're looking at hopefully maybe potentially opening the ice a little bit earlier so that we could run our program for our kids a little bit earlier than just the October. Look at maybe September.
So if you want that, you should write.
I will.
something. No, I'm just suggesting you put your request in writing to our chief administrative officer for
Perfect.
consideration by council, because there are some implications for opening up early and so on, so we just need to consider those.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's my first comment.
I have another one, but.
Oh. Go ahead.
Okay, my next comment or question, I don't know if this is the right area, now that we're going to adopt the new tagline, do we then get an action plan? What do we do now? I know that you guys have agreed to adopt it, but what's next?
So right now, and I can speak, and maybe some others may want to speak as well, there's also running concurrently was a strategic planning process. And we're in the process of getting that finalized with a separate group altogether. So there was the logo, branding, website, and also a strategic planning exercise. We consulted with members of the public in terms of what council's priorities should be. Council met as a council to determine what those priorities should be, considering all the public input. And the employees met together to establish some more tactical plans and goals to establish out of those. The consultants are now putting pen to paper. That will come out and we will share all that information with the public so that you know what our focus is going to be for the next 3 to 5 years.
We'll be able to hold you accountable for that.
All right, that's the goal.
So I was part of the strategic planning, which was, oh my gosh, it was something else. I went in not expecting what I got, but we heard the good, we heard the bad, we heard people praising, people outraged. It was just phenomenal. Like everything came out. There was no topic off limit. But you guys said you're waiting on the reports for that.
Yes.
So what are we looking at time frame wise?
Should be fairly quickly.
June was the wrap up for everything, so I would say within the next month or so, we'd be able
Okay.
to come back with it.
And our goal, I think, what we had agreed to as a council was to kind of go around and do presentations at each one of the wards so that we could tell you what's in that.
And if you hear about the playground a lot, I'm sorry.
And the purpose of a strategic planning exercise is to look at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and
Yeah.
threats. So to have negative comments is not necessarily bad. We need to know that.
It
All of
looked like a kindergartner trying to
Yeah,
color something.
that's
It was
okay.
all over the place, but like the energy in the room, just so you guys know, was fantastic.
Good.
Like,
Good.
it was, I walked out of there and I thought I drank a bottle of booze to myself. It was crazy. Not everything was great, not everything was bad, but the energy that was in that, like the passion in Fundy Albert, just, it blows my mind. Like, it makes me love being here.
Good. All right. Anyone else?
I have a
Yes.
question. Well, first of all, I should tell you that I'm the representative for this entity on the Southeast Regional Service Commission Tourism Promotion Committee. And I was wondering, what is the communication between that committee and between the staff and between the council? Like, do you get a report about what's going on, what we're doing now?
We occasionally, during the Southeast Regional Service Commission board meetings, will get updates from the various committees, but the committees typically will keep working away until there are milestones achieved. Then they will report to the board,
Okay,
and then any of those types of reports would be shared with council.
okay. Because I have been writing reports for the Albert County Tourism Association. And if you wanted, I could copy those to you. But if you're already getting those, I guess you're.
I have not ever seen a report from the Southeast Regional Service Committee tourism people.
Promotion committee.
No,
That's very important. It's promotion.
okay, yeah, tourism, we haven't seen that.
Well, I can copy you if you wish.
Please do.
Just keep you up to date, sure. I don't like doing that.
Yeah.
Now, provided tomorrow night is our meeting and I finish my term as president. And so it will be deciding if I should continue on the committee or not, but
Sure.
I will if I do.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyone else have any comments, statements? Well, if not, thank you very much for attending, folks. It was a pleasure, and we do have some closed session items to discuss, so I'll accept a motion to move into closed session, moved by Councilor Land, seconded by Councilor Albert. Favor of the motion, signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any, motion's carried.